Hello everyone. On the 1st of December I attended a 3 game Warhammer Fantasy tournament in Lowestoft. It was called Blood on the Sand. It was an uncomp tournament. There was a minor comp for Death and Shadow spells, but other than that, it was uncomped. The army list would be 2,400 points, and to this I took my High Elves. So the first game, which I'll do here, was High Elves versus Dwarfs. Now, I've never played Dwarfs before, or I have, but I've got very little exposure to it in my meta, so, um, you know, really I'm very inexperienced against Dwarfs. So basically his army list, he had a he had a BSB, a Thane BSB, he had a Rune Lord, a Rune Smith, a Slayer Lord, he had 2 units of 10 Slayers, 27 Longbeards I think it was, 20 Quarrelers, 20 Rangers, 10 Miners, 1 Grudge Thrower, 1 Cannon, and 1 Bolt Thrower with Engineer. So to start off with my spells, my level 4 of High Magic, he had Soul Quench, Tempest, Arcane Unforging, Fiery Convocation, and then also my level 2 of Metal, he had Glittering Robes and Searing Doom. So to start off with my deployment, I'll go through the army list a little bit more in detail on this video. Then obviously the following ones on the tournament, I'll just skim through my deployment like I do my opponents, because obviously I don't know what they've got. So on the right hand side, I've got my Illyrian Reavers, 5 of those guys just with spears. Sitting behind those, I've got a Great Eagle, just as it is. Then I've got 3 repeater bolt throwers. Then I've got 8 sword masters. These guys have got a standard, and they've also got the banner of the eternal flame. In front of those, I've got 5 Reavers, again spears only, and another Eagle, again as is. Then I've got 15 Archers with Musician. Inside that Archer bunker, I've put my level 2 of Metal, and he went to the tournament with a Dispel Scroll and Kane's Ring of Fury. I've then got 21 Phoenix Guard, and they have got the Lichbone Pennant standard, and in that unit I've got my level 4, he's got the Talisman of Preservation and the Book of Hearth. And then on my left hand side I've got my Frostheart Phoenix, and I've got a unit of 14 Silver Helms with full command, and inside that unit I've put my Noble BSB, who is holding the Banner of the World Dragon. Onto my opponent's deployment. There's the Rangers on the left that you can see they came on as scouts at the end of deployment. And then directly opposite my Silver Helms, he's got his 10 Slayers, and then moving across his lines, he's got his Longbeard unit with his BSB, Rune Lord and Rune Smith in. Then behind that he's got a Grudge Thrower, then he's got his Cannon, and he's got 10 more Slayers. Then he's got his 20 Quarrelers. The 10 Slayers in the middle of the ones, they've got the Slayer Lord in that unit. And then over on the side is the Bolt Thrower with the Engineer. So I got first turn. At the start of my first turn, I basically flew the Eagle over behind the impassable terrain to protect against cannons and Grudge Throwers and Bolt Throwers and whatever else. And then I've reformed up my Silver Helms to tackle the threat of the Rangers. Right hand side, I've walked the Phoenix Guard up to get myself in range for spells. The Archers have pretty much stayed put. The Reavers have moved up the centre to leave a long charge for his Slayers, and but they are obviously exposed to the Quarrelers, and the Eagles moved up behind them. And the same with the other Reavers over on the right, obviously going for the Bolt Thrower. I'm hoping to get a bit of sort of target saturation here. I mean, his Quarrelers are only going to shoot at one of the units, so somewhere along the lines I'm going to be getting in there. The Swordmasters have moved up behind the lines, and I've left a lane of fire open for the Bolt Throwers. Magic phase, it was a 5, which was rolled for the Winds of Magic. Highest dice was a 4, and I 5-diced Arcane Unforging on the Rune Lord. Basically, he's got 2 options. He can either use his Spellbreaker, and that's gone anyway, or I Arcane Unforge him and have a chance of getting rid of his Spellbreaker. So that's just the purpose of that, really. He doesn't use it. He tries to dispel and it actually fails, so works out best in my favour here. but I failed to wound. Now, we wasn't sure if you still get to, you know, remove a magic item if you fail to do the wound, because it doesn't specifically say in the spell, you know, on successfully wounding or anything like that. So we diced it off, and we just played the game that you can't. So I'm still not clear on that, so if anyone knows, post it up. I then shoot 2 repeater bolt throwers into the quarrelers and do about 4 wounds. And the third repeater bolt thrower, which is on the right hand side, actually has a clear shot onto the cannon, which is sitting on top of the hill. There's like a graveyard there, and we decided to play that as a hill. So I had a clear lane of fire up to him, shot it, but hit it and failed to wound. The archers then shoot at the Longbeard unit and don't do any wounds. So on to Dwarf turn 1. The Slayers on the left hand side move up, the Quarrelers stay put, and then down the centre the Longbeards move up and the Slayers move up as well, both units marching forward. And then into the shooting phase, the Grudge Thrower shoots at the archers, but it scatters off 6 inches onto the Phoenix Guard and kills 2 of those. And then the Quarrelers shoot at the Illyrian Reavers, kills 3, but they don't panic. The Bolt Thrower then shoots at the Eagle and misses, and the cannon shoots at one of my repeater bolt throwers, but he rolls a 1 to wound, so he fails to wound that. And also, it's not shown, but the Rangers do shoot at the Silverhelms in this turn and kill 2 of them. So on to Elf turn 2. The Silverhelms charge the Rangers, lose 1, so they've now lost 3 from the unit. And it's not here until I've actually made the charge that I realise it's a mistake. I mean, he tells me these guys have got great weapons. They're not really what you see is what you get, but I think there's one guy sitting in one of the ranks that's holding a great weapon. You know, it's fair enough. I mean, I've got a lack of knowledge of Dwarfs, so I you know, had I known they had great weapons, would I have changed it? I'm not sure, because there's a first opportunity there for a first turn charge. But we'll see how this combat goes. You know, I'm hoping to hit him on the charge, break him, and then he'll be off the board because he's on the edge of the board right now. And the Phoenix, which is out of shot, actually moves up beside his Longbeard unit. I mean, you can see it on the picture here. This was taken before I moved him. And that's just to march block him, but again, it's lack of knowledge with Dwarfs, because basically I didn't know you can't march block these guys. So over onto the right hand side, the Illyrian Reavers have charged into the bolt thrower on the right hand side, and the Eagle has charged into the cannon. So for the Winds of Magic, I got a 5 again. I believe it was a 4 and a 1 again, so still highest dice was a 4. And I go for a 5 dice Fiery Convocation this time. And it does absolutely fantastic for me, because it killed 12 of his guys from his Longbeard unit. And but it did go off irresistibly, and I rolled a 7 on the miscast table. Over with the Silverhelms. After combat, I've lost 3 Silverhelms, and he's lost about 4 guys. So I win by 2, but he's stubborn and he sticks. And I didn't get a picture, but in the remaining moves, the Eagle, which was behind the Reavers that had charged and hit, that had now charged, it moved up by the Quarrelers, facing towards the bolt thrower. And the idea of that is to flank it if the bolt thrower or the Quarrelers, whichever one I need really. And the Reavers, which were down to 2 guys also, they just skip around past the Slayers. In the shooting phase, I've put all my repeater bolt thrower shots into the Quarrelers and killed 3 guys. And I put my archers into the Longbeards, killing 2. In close combat, my Eagle has taken a wound, and I failed to do a wound on the cannon, so that's a push. And the Reavers lost 1 guy, and I killed the engineer, so I won by 1. And the War Machine passes its check, so that's not running away. Dwarf turn 2, I don't have a picture of the movement, but basically the Longbeards move up and the Slayers continue to push up. The Miners came in beside the repeater bolt thrower on my right hand side, and he dispels Fiery Convocation, obviously. The Quarrelers shoot at the Swordmasters and kill 5, which causes them to run, and the Grudge Thrower veers way off target. He attempted to hit the Phoenix, which was sort of parked right in front of him. In combat, the Rangers go to town and kill 4 more Silverhelms, and I kill 3 guys. He has no musicians, so I win by 1, because obviously I've got the BSB in there. But again, he sticks, so he's still not running away. And here at the end of his turn, he's done 1 wound to my Eagle, and I've done 1 wound to his cannon, so another push there in that combat. The bolt thrower crew wiped out the Reavers, taking no wounds in return, and also you can see the Slayer Lord had left the unit to take on the chaff. So then it's on to Elves turn 3, and the Reavers charge into the cannon that they're obviously teed up there to get into, and the Phoenix also charges the other flank of the cannon, because I definitely want that cannon dead. The Eagle then makes a long charge into the flank of the bolt thrower, and my Phoenix Guard have actually moved backwards. So I think at this point is when he gets his grudge book out and starts jotting up a few notes in there about the Phoenix Guard's cowardice. They basically moved back. The Swordmasters then rallied, and in the magic phase I go for Arcane Unforging again on the Runesmith, which he tries to stop on dice, but it goes. Still saving the Spellbreaker, probably for Fiery Convocation. Now he's seen how effective it can be. So he fails to dispel it, but again I fail to wound the Rune Lord, so again I don't unforge anything. I then go for 6 dice Fiery Convocation on the Longbeards. I caused 3 wounds on the unit, and I also wounded his Rune Lord once, but he saved that. This again goes off with Irresistible Force, which ends up being the small round template, but does nothing. In the shooting phase, I put the repeater bolt throwers into the Quarrelers, trying to get the points where I can, knowing that me repeater bolt throwers are going to be eaten up now by the miners, and I managed to kill 4 of them. Then shoot at the Longbeards with the archers, still doing no wounds there. And after combat here in the centre, this is how it looked. So the Phoenix reforms up to look back towards the Longbeards. Illyrian Reavers overrun, but I'm 1 inch short of hitting that grudge thrower. And then the Eagle reforms up to face over towards the bolt thrower. So, and then over on the combat with the Silver Helms, the Rangers kill another 3 guys, and I do 5 wounds back, and yet again they stick. Dwarf turn 3. The Slayers decide to move to the right, as they obviously realise that the helms are done, and they won't get all the way around that terrain to the Phoenix Guards unit anyway, so they move over to the right, perhaps in the hope that the Phoenix is going to be available for a charge or something like that. Over here, off shot, we've got the miners. They charge the first repeater bolt thrower. The Longbeards march up still, and the Quarrelers now reform to ranks, and the Slayers continue to move up around that bit of terrain. The Slayer Lord moves into the wood, ready to charge the Eagle next turn, who's sitting in the bolt thrower at the moment. And in the magic phase, he just dispels Fiery Convocation. So in his shooting phase, he then goes ahead and he drops a rock on my archers, which basically kill 11 guys. Fortunately, they don't panic, and in combat over here, the miners have killed the first bolt thrower and they've overrun into the second. Now, in this combat over here, my champion and my BSB both whiff all their attacks. I mean, the BSB here he's got to be wounded on 3s, I think. No, sorry, wounded on 4s. And I mean, I'm just rolling triple 1s to wound. It's not going well at all, and I end up losing combat on this one, and I flee. So that's the BSB gone, and the champion obviously gets away. Over here, the Eagle has now got the bolt thrower down to 1 wound, and I took none in return, and the bolt thrower stays. And then on High Elf turn 4, this is actually the end of my turn after everything's been done. The Phoenix moves up behind the Longbeards, and the Reavers charge into the grudge thrower. The other Eagle charges into that bolt thrower. So at the start of my turn, basically I've got both Eagles sitting in the bolt thrower. The Phoenix has moved down here. The dice on the Phoenix there is actually for the, what my highest wins of magic was. To remind myself, I think I've got 4+ ward save on this turn. And yeah, so the Reavers are sitting in the grudge thrower, 2 Eagles in the bolt thrower. I've also gone ahead and moved my mage out of the archer unit. I then attempted to swift reform the archers so that I could basically walk them up in front of my Phoenix Guard, so them Longbeards wouldn't be getting at my Phoenix Guard. But I failed that, so all I did was actually reform. I mean, at this point, I didn't charge the Phoenix Guard into the Longbeards. I mean, some people may be thinking do it, but I mean, he's sort of bragging a bit about how tough his lords are and whatever else, and I'm a bit unsure, and I'm pretty confident, given another 1 or 2 turns, that I'm gonna get the unit gone, and then I'm just gonna chuck everything at it, perhaps. So yeah, the mage has moved out. The sword masters just pivot on the spot. I'm not obviously moving up or down with these guys. And in the magic phase, I cast Fiery Convocation on his Longbeards, and I kill enough so that there's just one remaining model from the unit left. Again, his lords either don't take wounds or make their saves. Shooting again does nothing of importance on this turn, and as you saw in the previous picture, the eagles had got the bolt thrower down to 1 wound, and the bolt thrower has finished the other eagle which had charged it. So obviously I've got, at the end of this turn, and also the reavers are dead, so basically at the end of this turn I've got the grudge thrower is now free to shoot again, and I've got 1 eagle sitting in the bolt thrower. And the miners here have destroyed that bolt thrower of mine, but instead of overrunning, because it was in my turn anyway, they kept it as it was, obviously, because then on their turn they'll get the charge bonus. So on to bottom of 4. He charges his rangers into the silver helms, and obviously the silver helms flee, but I'm still a ways away from the board. I mean, probably about 3 inches or so. And then he also charges his Slayer Lord into the eagle, and he actually then backs up with his Longbeards and dispels Fiery Convocation. So at this stage I'm sort of thinking maybe that was a mistake not to charge the Longbeards, because if he's thinking twice about a last turn charge just to like guarantee a 20-0 or something, you know, he was probably bluffing, and maybe I could have took that unit up, but I don't know. And then he also charges his miners into the repeater bolt thrower, and in combat I kill his bolt thrower, and he does a couple of wounds to the eagle, and that's it. The slayers, the miners then kill the last repeater bolt thrower. Slayers are still moving up, but obviously get nowhere, and that's it. That's the end of the game. So that was the end there. Unfortunately, it ended there at 4 turns. Basically, we didn't realise that it's 2 hours per game, and we was going a bit slower. It was a friendly, sort of slow-paced, you know, fun game. Really, it was a brilliant opponent, great fun to play against. He plays at for the Chelmsford Bunker, and you know, they're a great bunch of guys. Seen him at this is the second tournament I've seen him at now. So yeah, it's just fun. I don't know how the game would have swung had it continued. I mean, he had a lot of points in that Longbeard unit, which, you know, I only needed 1 more guy to kill 1 more guy. So maybe even if I'd stuck with the Phoenix Guard, I should have chucked them in there just to kill that 1 guy. I don't know. But I mean, his stuff was all surrounding mine. I mean, all I had left really was the Phoenix Guard. So I think the likelihood is even if it had continued on, you know, the helms would have been off the board. So that's the points there. And then, you know, if his Longbeard unit is I don't know, 400 points, you know, that equals the helms or something. So it's not really, I don't think I could have done a huge amount to sway it. I mean, the Slayer would have killed the eagle, the bolt thrower's gone, helms are off the board, so I've just got my Phoenix and my Phoenix Guard, and that's it really left on there. So yeah, oh, and I had the archers and my level 2 mage, but they would have been easily picked off by the miners and whatever coming around, and my sword masters were combat ineffective. So that ended the game there, and the final score on that game was a 6 points to me and 14 points to the opponent. I only actually ended up getting the cannon and the bolt thrower out of that, and hit the points that he got was my BSB, an eagle, 2 units of reavers, and 3 repeater bolt throwers. So, and that equaled about 640 point difference by the time it was all worked out. Obviously, he got the BSB, but he also got the 100 point bonus for breaking him in combat. So the next game that I drew was against Beastman, and that's against Paul, who plays at my local club in Haverhill. So yeah, on to game 2.